Hi, we're back again on Born B464 with Jim Wolfe, the author of Out of the Rabbit Hole and Into Life. And I want to ask you the question, Jim, why that title?
If you read the book, it talks about different issues and how you can resolve them and what happens. And before I wrote the book, I talk about in the book talking to some psychologists and even a psychic. And,
oh, really?
And so we're talking about what happens to people. And one of them said, yeah, they kind of go into the rabbit hole. And that set it off. I'm like, that's the book. It's you're into the rabbit hole and you got to get out. You got to do whatever you've got to do to get out of there and live your life. So when you get slammed into the rabbit hole, find a way to get out and keep on living.
And that's really important, I think.
Oh, I mean, otherwise, it's like running down your rabbit hole and having a steamroller roll over top of you, and you can't get out. So you got to get out. You know.
And the other thing is that after, you were the first one to leave, right?
Right. Yes.
And where did you go? To college, to the service?
Well, I college, but I went locally to college. I basically, a friend of mine that I went to high school with got married right out of high school.
Wow.
And then he got divorced before the summer was over. And so he had a house that he had to take care of by himself, and he wasn't really prepared to do that. And kind of it opened the door for myself and two other friends to move in with him.
Oh, so you moved in together?
So there were four of us that lived in a house, yes.
And you could deal with it. And you were all in college at the time?
I was in college, one other was in college, and the other two worked. You know, my friend that had the house was a plumber. He was learning to be a plumber.
Oh, wow.
So
is he a successful plumber today?
He's retired, so I think he is.
Retired?
He's retired
Already?
Yep.
Has he refired yet?
He moved to a remote place way down south, and he's enjoying life. And he doesn't even want to hear about the radio or the news.
No, I don't. You know, there are some people that can become almost like hermits.
Right.
And then there's people like myself that don't ever want to quit doing what we love doing.
Right.
And I think that there's a new book out that seriously talks about that, is that our age group, 90% of us will keep on doing something and working, and the other 10% won't.
Right, right.
So instead of retiring, you just refire yourself into something
and everybody's different, you know.
That's right.
But I think that's excellent advice. As long as you're healthy and able to do it, you need to keep on doing something. The last thing you need to do is nothing, because that doesn't.
Because our parents, when they retired to either Florida, or to sitting in rocking chairs and watching television, or maybe playing golf.
Right.
You know, something like that they did. And our generation is so much more active in so many different ways.
Right.
What's your favorite thing to do before you start talking about the rest of your life? What is your favorite hobby?
Well, I don't know if I have a hobby, but I would say golf is a lot of fun. Fishing, but I like to fish in Canada, go for a week or two and fly into an island and have a little cabin on an island and just fish in Canada.
Salmon fishing?
Now, in Canada, we use walleye and northern pike and a little bit of trout. But walleye is the main fish up there.
Yeah, and it's really good fish.
Oh, it's delicious. I mean, you can eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you know.
Yeah, so do you go with friends when you go?
I go. Usually my son goes, and then he takes a friend, and I take a friend. And sometimes there's 3 or 4 father-sons. And we just go into different parts of Canada and then get on a plane and fly further in.
Oh, really? Does somebody fly?
You go to a base, what they call a base camp. There's outfitters up there that do that. That's how they make their living. And Canada rents out islands to these outfitters.
Well, that seems like a fun kind of show to do, wouldn't it?
It's neat. It's really neat.
It really is.
Neat. Really
you know,
neat.
it's really funny. We did a show with wild tuna.
Okay.
And I have always wanted to, I love fishing. My son and I both love fishing. The rest of the family doesn't like fishing. They think it's weird. But I love to fish. And I would love to go on a tuna boat. I'd love to do a fishing week where we go to Canada or somewhere in the wild and do that. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Right.
So now let's get back to your life story. You left, you went to college. What did you major in and what did you become after you left college?
Well, when I started college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I majored into business administration.
Business administration.
And I got an associate's degree because I was in a really hurry to get a degree, so I got a 2-year degree in that. And then I decided to continue on, so then I got a 4-year degree in economics, a bachelor in economics.
Oh, wow.
And I decided I liked working with money and that kind of thing.
That's fun?
Yeah. So I started into the financial business. And
who was your first job?
well, my first job, actually, I worked in Covington, Kentucky at a place called Public Finance Company.
When I worked for Beneficial,
Yeah,
and
it
I
was the
worked for
same thing.
Sterling.
Yeah, they were just down the street from us, or one of the offices were.
Which one?
And so,
BFC.
Beneficial, yeah.
Beneficial.
Yeah.
The first one I worked for was Sterling.
Okay. No,
And then I went to the big one, BFC.
Yes, yeah.
So what did you do for them?
Well, I started out collecting. I think that's what they start everybody out that didn't have any other jobs. They just kind of...
Cashiering to start.
Yeah, okay, well...
Then I did collecting, and then skip chasing.
Okay, well, that's kind of the same thing. Yeah, same thing. And actually, where I went, they started just skip chasing first, feeling like you couldn't screw anything up too bad, you know. As they put you through a training program.
Right.
And then ultimately, you start to make loans, and then you start to make sales calls on merchants to get them to send you business.
Did you do discount paper?
We did, yeah, furniture stores.
Well, you know, it's really funny because years later, after I first started, is when I went into discount paper.
Okay.
And I was the first female outside rep for BFC. Right.
Really? Wow, that's neat.
Which, you know, Amco Transmissions
Sure.
was my first big account.
Right.
And it was funny because when you're doing discount paper, it's so totally different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very much so.
Than anything else. I mean, you have used car dealers, right?
Right, yes.
Freezer, you know, those,
the freezer packages, buy the freezer and full of meat.
Yeah, and all the meat.
Yeah, that was one.
And I'm trying to think, like Kirby vacuum cleaners was one of our...
Oh, yeah. Oh, I could tell you
them?
some stories about that.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, so those were kind of things that I had never done before, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
So tell me, so how long were you in the finance business? Type of finance?
Yeah, a little over 4 years. I mean, I was 21 when I started there, roughly.
Right.
And I wanted to actually ultimately be in a bank and go somewhere in banking, but you just don't walk in out of college and say, here I am, you know. So after getting some guidance from a couple different banks, they suggested, you know, work a couple years in a finance company, get that solid background, and then come into banking. So,
yeah, I mean, you really did get an education in the finance business.
Right.
I mean, you know, I don't know, some of the companies that I worked with, I mean, they really put you through procedurally everything.
Oh, yeah, everything.
I mean, I used to check out credit.
Right.
And work with all the credit, not the credit bureaus.
Right.
Which was an experience in itself.
Right.
Right.
Well, everything was manual, too. You did it on the phone and you wrote it down.
Oh, yeah.
No computers.
No computers
No truth
at
in
all.
lending.
That's true.
And everything was pre-computed.
No, wait a minute. It wasn't just pre-computed. Well, some companies were pre-computed, and then you had interest-bearing.
Well, ultimately, interest-bearing is what it went to.
Is that what it went to?
And that's when they got into the truth in lending and the APRs and everything.
Right.
But initially, it was like a 7% add-on, which is 21% or whatever. And what's interesting is if you go into a bank today and talk to anybody, I'd say under 50.
Okay.
They don't know what you're talking about. They can't even imagine credit bureaus on the phone, no fax machines, you know, manually doing everything, posting on ledger cards, computing your own interest, using math. I mean... Right.
I mean, we didn't have a choice.
No, there was nothing else there.
Right, and I think I had just turned 17, or had graduated from high school. I was 17, going on 18, and that was my first job. And really, to be honest about it, I really loved it. I really loved it.
Fun and a good education.
Right.
You know, it just, for so long, then it's time to move on.
Right.
You know.
Well, we'll be right back after these very important messages with Jim Wolfe of out of the rabbit hole and into life. I almost went into the fire, you know, but into life.
Some people do. But
Some people do, right. And where can they get that book again, Jim?
Amazon.com, or just put the name in online, go to Google, put in the name. It'll take you to probably 10 different sites that have it.
Right. And on that note, we'll be right back after these important messages.